ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black millennial business owner, the founder of Shalo Glow LLC, an all-natural skincare company that helps you glow from head to toe. I am a champion for your daily self-care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hey, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, published author, and dancing social worker who helps you upgrade yourself and community care.
Together, we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness.
And we like to get together every week for intentional conversations between us and special guests about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness.
For our listeners and viewers who are with us today, we're talking about spiritual wellness, and Christine is out enjoying her family. So with us, we have one of our Volume 1 Amazon bestselling authors, Melody LeBaron. And what I'm going to do real quick is read part of her bio. Okay, again, we do a lot, but I'm going to give you a snapshot of her experience so you know where we're having this conversation from. Author Melody LeBaron has resided in more than 30 homes in the U.S. and Canada, and these dwelling places have been some of her greatest teachers. Moving 8 times before attending college at 17, Melody gained a vast spiritual geography and appreciation for the gifts the land offers those who inhabit it. Her sense of the constancy of home was forged by summers spent in the southern Alberta prairie town in which her parents were reared, punctuated by joyous family gatherings in the Canadian Rockies. Actively engaged in transforming space, self, and loss, Melody also facilitates an empowerment process for women and coaches clients through meaningful changes in their homes and workspaces, their relationships, and their lives. So we're going to have this conversation today. I'm super excited.
I am too, and I cannot wait to talk more with our guest today.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so today we're talking about awakening and healing the feminine within. When you hear that, what comes up for you, Melody?
Oh my goodness, so much. I was raised in a motherless church.
Mm.
And so we have so much to unpack and talk about when we think about the healing that can happen for each of us, all, no matter what our gender, no matter what our orientation, each of us needs to open ourselves to the divine feminine within, as well as the divine masculine.
Yes, yes. I'm looking forward to having that conversation. And I think we go ahead and bring up our guest. What do you think?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and bring up Magdalena Grace, because I'm super excited to jump into this detailed conversation with you ladies. And Magdalena Grace is a transformational speaker, trainer, coach, and Ironman triathlete that has coached thousands of people in business and healthy lifestyles since the year 2000. Coach Magdalena Grace has been a coach for 23 years, coaching 20,000 plus people in both health and fitness, as well as business and sales. She has seen so many people focus on the external doing of goal setting, New Year's resolutions, and intention setting, and realized that most of our success lies within. She is here for you to get to the root cause of your health and wealth limitations. She helps guide you with love and compassion, with mind, body, spirit fitness as a transformational coach, using guided visualization and many other tools in her vast tool belt to get you to live the life you love with super conscious creation. Help us welcome to the stage, Magdalena Grace. Welcome.
Hello, nice to be here.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I'm honored and excited about this conversation.
Yes, me too. So Melody said something that reminded me of the conversation we were having, right? Divine feminine and divine masculine. What does that mean for you when you hear those words?
Wow. I'm going to think of the simplest answer. I know for me, I grew up in a motherless church as well as a motherless family. And so I was way coming from the place of the wounded patriarchal masculine, go, do, the push, do, sell, all of it, forcing things. And I completely shut down the feminine. Now that I've come back to center and realigned myself and done deep healing and deep ancestral work, especially, for me, it's the masculine is the protector of the feminine. The masculine is the the knowing when to act, when to rest. The feminine is the open, the receptive, the nourishing, the intuitive, the fun, the playful, and they both are meant to work together. I mean, they're also the hemispheres in our brain, oh, by the way, so there's so many answers to that question, but it's really coming back to center in our hearts and our minds and connecting with that proper balance that was really meant to be embodied
Yes.
4,000+ years ago, and we sort of got off track.
I hear you. And I know on your website, there's this diagram, right? The left brain being very logical, again, analytical, the right brain being creative. So I hear what you're saying there. For our listeners, can you tell us specifically, divine feminine is this, and then divine masculine, what does it look like when it's healthy?
Oh my gosh. Well, it's the sacred union within yourself first, as within, so without. It's the feminine is about having self-love and self-compassion. It's being that mother to yourself. It's about nurturing yourself, having spaciousness in your days, rest and play, and really honoring your intuition and listening to that beautiful inner girl or inner boy. Because again, even if you're non-gender or non-binary, whatever, we all have that sacred masculine and feminine within inside of us. And the masculine is the protector, of time, healthy boundaries, setting healthy boundaries, knowing when to say no. It's also the action, but it's intentional, focused action, not just taking action for the sake of action, or you could say not overthinking or overdoing, because that masculine is also about, like you said, the logical, the analytical mind. But we all get so stuck in that analytical, overthinking, overdoing, egoic mind. This is more of that super conscious mind, that masculine of knowing when to take action and when to not, and just to be and to protect that feminine energy. So I hope that gives a little more clarity to the question.
Yes. Melody, do you have anything you would like to add?
Yeah, I was listening earlier today to Magdalena's podcast episode with her husband on the sacred union. And if our listeners have more questions about, well, how does that really show up in our real relationships, in our real life, they should all go listen to that beautiful episode.
I love it.
Yeah.
And if we can, I'd love to speak even a little bit more about that. I don't want to go off on a tangent.
We're here for the tangent and the soapbox. This is
okay. Because what we discovered, my husband and I, 3-4 years ago, I mean, we were both like shut down. We were wounded feminine, wounded masculine, both of us. And I was a binge drinking workaholic who had grown a penis, pardon the expression, and was just overdoing, focusing on sales, focusing on goals, all of the things that you kind of alluded to in my bio. And I didn't understand that feminine and masculine energy, we're born with a mom and a dad, whether you knew them or not, and whether maybe it was a sperm donor or you were adopted or whatever. We had models of that feminine and that masculine energy called a mom and a dad, or a grandmom, again, foster mom, dad, whoever. Maybe you didn't even have one. Like I didn't have a mom for about the first 10 years of my life. So I was, foster mom, but also in and out of other people's homes. And I didn't have that nurturing mom that carried me for 9 months. Right. And so we have these wounds, these triggers, these traumas that once they manifest, like narcissism, bullying, a lot of that goes into like the masculine wound, that kind of thing. The woman or the feminine wound could be very submissive, not open, not receptive. That's why a lot of times, society says, men are supposed to make more money than women. And a lot of times that trickles down right into all of our generations. And so there's all these stereotypes that hold us hostage, is what I'm trying to say. And then when you're unconsciously coming from the wounded masculine or the wounded feminine, I believe fully that's the number one reason cause for divorce or breaking up of relationships or conscious uncoupling. There's so much of that happening as we go into the age of Aquarius. People don't want to settle anymore. The tricky part with that is, like my husband and I, a few years ago, I was like, I'm done. But I had a mentor who said, well, guess what? Your partner is a mirror of what's going on inside of you that you don't like about yourself. And he's just pissing you off. Again, not usually on purpose, for things that you've got to look at that mirror. Carl Jung, love Carl Jung. I could go on and on about shadow work and stuff like that, but I won't for sake of time. But to be able to understand that and to go in and look at all those parts of yourself, the wounds, the masculine and the feminine wounds that we got from our upbringing, but also guess what? Your parents probably inherited from someone before them and someone before them and someone before them. So right now the divine feminine rising is forcing us all to look at that and to heal, to forgive, to find love and compassion first for yourself and all those wounded parts of you so that you can love yourself and then have the healed feminine and masculine. So it can make partnerships better. It can make relationships better on all levels, any kind of relationship, whether it's a friend, a business partner, a parent, child relationship. So when she talks about that sacred union, we talk a lot about that's what's coming up now for, I believe, the whole planet.
So important. So you said a lot of good stuff, right? And this is what we skip over sometimes in life is the processing. So we talked about the healthy divine feminine and divine masculine, right? Now can we go back? Let's go back to the wounded. What does that look like? How would you describe that?
Oh gosh. So there's a lot of different trauma responses and a lot of different titles. So just keep in mind, I want to honor, everybody's got a different maybe therapeutic system or if you study Carl Jung, there's guilt, there's shame, there's fear, there's attachment. All of that can be seated inside of your body. And then as within, so without. If, for example, I had a lot of shame. And for me, shame oftentimes is associated with the sacral chakra. And for all intents and purposes, because I was ashamed of who I was inside of me, I was afraid to, be my true authentic self. So I lived a lie. I became a people pleaser. I became a codependent person. Different people will say that's both wounded masculine, wounded feminine. I personally feel like it because I am a woman and I have a womb and there's shame, sexuality, all of that stuff that's connected to the womb and being a woman. For me, that was definitely more of a wounded feminine. So codependency came from that with my husband, looking outside myself for answers from substances, alcohol, busyness, social media, scrolling. For me, that was a huge part of the wounded feminine that would then cause me to, hate life and not want to live anymore. And I've shared before, I've lost 12 friends to suicide. I lost a brother to alcoholism. I've seen so much death from people who never healed those mother-father wounds or those feminine masculine wounds. And true story, one time when I was in my plant medicine ceremony, all my friends who committed suicide, my brother, other famous people that committed suicide like Chris Cornell, Prince, who died of addiction, they all came and said, thank you for the work you're doing to heal your feminine and masculine within, your mother-father wound, whatever you want to call it, because they didn't. They relied on pharmaceuticals and things outside of themselves, alcohol, drugs, whatever was their codependent thing. And I do believe that, again, that comes back to the divine feminine wound or the feminine wound itself. Masculine, again, is where I would come from, a place of forcing, doing fight or flight response kind of trauma responses. So I'd get upset, have an argument with someone and think I'm right? The patriarchy, look what's happening in the world with the wars, right? I'm right, you're wrong, therefore you're going to die. And, all of that. Masculine wound, big time. Flight, there's a lot of people whose, parents left or abandoned them, even emotionally. Like my father embodied that. He was there physically, but he was emotionally shut down. So there was that abandonment, masculine kind of wound. And I see that with a lot of women I work with, their partners embody a lot of that masculine wound. So those, I could go on for like another 20 minutes, but I'm not. But those are tangible examples in my life and what I've seen in the collective, what I've seen with almost all of my clients.
I hear you. And we're talking about tens of thousands of people, so I appreciate your research and the help that you've given, like they said, but also paying attention to the details so you can say what it looks like in different situations because it does come up differently. Melody, with your work, that you help with people in their space and letting go of things. What would you say to what Magdalena Grace just shared?
She is so right on when it comes to the individual work that we all have to do. If we want to have a more peaceful world, praying for peace is nice, but not the answer. Doing the kind of work Magdalena just referenced is all important, because in order for us to have an experience in the collective, enough of us have to do the work inside our own consciousness. And so for me, growing up the way I did also led me to codependency, also led me to heartbreak. I have lost actually now two of my siblings as a result of the collision of sort of the patriarchal overculture and addiction. There's this very dark corner where the two of them meet.
Wow.
And now, two of my siblings are gone. So, Magdalena, when you referenced your experience of losing as many people to this, I really see that my life, and perhaps you would see your life in this way as well. I look at the arc of my life and see that everything has been working to bring me out of patriarchy and into partnership. And I believe that's the direction that Martin Luther King Jr. was talking about when he says, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends in the direction of justice. This moving out of a dominator culture and a one-up, one-down mindset, and moving toward partnership is moving toward equity and justice, not just for us individually and in our relationships with our beloveds and our children and our land and our homes, but our relationships among cultures. So I just appreciate so deeply what you're talking about, Magdalena, because I don't think this is just the answer to marital problems. I think this is the answer to global problems.
100%. Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I want to go deeper there. When you say you think it's the answer to global problems, right? I can definitely see it. I can see how in teams it might play out, right? And partnerships, romantic partnerships, collaborations, when somebody is leading their actions from trauma. When you say that, what do you mean, Melody?
Well, what I mean is that until we've done the work that Magdalena and her husband have done, until we've really gone in and done some shadow work and discovered where our trauma responses are coming from, the unhealed wounded masculine or the unhealed wounded feminine, we are operating in a reaction, automatic, sort of triggered way. But when we do the inner work, we all of a sudden have more spaciousness in our consciousness. We're not as easily triggered, and it's easier for us to try on another person's viewpoint or perspective and to recognize that diversity of viewpoints does not make us weaker. It makes us stronger. It was actually Einstein who said, a problem cannot be solved at the level of consciousness with which it was created. And so for us to have an individual, private healing that allows us to see things with a bigger viewpoint, a bigger lens, and then be engaged in the good work, in the good trouble of making changes, not just in our own lives, in our relationship with our homes and the people we live with, but our relationships in more difficult arenas. The work we're talking about here is the work that is the that suits us up and prepares us to really tackle the big challenges, the big issues in our culture. Yeah.
And that's why I think that Women Connected in Wisdom and the 8 dimensions are so important, right? Like, where are you in each category? Where do you need help? You're talking about the work that you do, right? Shadow work. And how can we get healed? And I believe everybody deserves to be healed, right? We can process these. A lot of these things are not your fault. They're not in your control. And, how do we process it and then sometimes reshape our perspective of it, right? Sometimes it's necessary, sometimes it's not. And then come from a healed place and then step into healed community and then balance that back and forth because, you heal from something and I hit something else, another bruise, something else happened. Life starts lifing. It's Tuesday now. What do you do? So Magdalena, you had a thought on the global scale of it, right? And the embolic. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, because we talked about before we came on, as of the time of this recording, tomorrow is Imbolc, and it's February 1st tomorrow, and it's the halfway point between winter solstice and spring solstice. So it's an abundant time, right? It's a hope. I mean, Groundhog Day being on the 2nd is no coincidence, right? You're going to see the groundhog or not, the shadow thing. And I think that's funny that is a shadow. But anyway, then if he sees a shadow again, he goes back in for another 6 weeks of winter. He's got to introspect on his shadow. That's
to process a little bit more. It makes sense.
Yeah, right. So to your point, that the divine feminine, and I love what you said earlier, Melody, about the motherless church. So I'm not exactly sure what you meant by that. So before I go on, what did you mean by that? Because I think it ties into what I'm about to share.
Great question.
I grew up in the Mormon church, and Mormons understand that there is a, quote, they call her Heavenly Mother, but we're not allowed to mention her name or speak of her.
Right.
And so it's the masculine. There was a beautiful Catholic theologian, Mary Daly, who said that when God is male, male becomes God. Not healthy. And she's not just talking about men, people walking around with that identity. She's talking about, as you were saying, the two hemispheres of the brain, the left brain having dominance over the right brain, and how that affects us in our relationship with self and others.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, I just wanted to point that out because I wanted to go down not a groundhog hole, but a rabbit hole of whatever made sense, right? So that I call that the religion wound with my clients. So to give myself as an example, but I've seen this with many of my clients, I talk about ancestral trauma and getting to those roots of the mother wound, the father wound, however many generations back. I believe you could actually go millions of years, billions of years if you talk to my husband, but I know some listeners are like, what? That's not possible. Whatever you believe is perfect, wherever your origin story started. So I had, my brother's an alcoholic, right? I followed suit and was pretty much a borderline alcoholic. I wanted to get to the root cause instead of just saying no. The abstinence model, there's lots of layers of that in the church, right? And I knew that wasn't going to work for me in my heart. There's just something there that didn't settle. So I went to plant medicine, which I believe, Shannon, you did want to talk to me or have us talk a little bit about that. We can maybe go next. But
yes,
I went to plant medicine to heal, to shut this down, to get into my body, to get into my heart, and to connect with those other dimensions. And I wanted to know, what is the root cause of this, that alcoholism running in my family thing? And guess what? It had everything to do with the religion wound, and went back many, many, many millennia where there was not millennia. It's actually, I guess, centuries, 1,000 years, give or take, depending on who you talk to. But my brother and I, in that lifetime, we were actually pagans. And it was during the Christian conversion where they were forcing feast or famine. You had to convert or you were going to not eat. Or you could live, but you had to be a Christian and you had to be in the closet about your true beliefs. And so pagans wanting to honor all gods and goddesses, the earth and all of the things. And, one God rules them all, in that idea. And I don't mean any disrespect to my Christian brothers and sisters. I grew up that, was 30 years a Christian, but I don't identify with that anymore. Part of it was my ancestors, they tried to warn the villages about the Christians who were coming and like burning the villages and all of that. And so they were on their way to warn these villages. My ancestors loved to drink mead, and they loved to have fun, and they loved music, and they loved to play. So even though they were facing possible death, they still had mead, and they got together and they hung out. And while I was in the medicine and talking to my ancestors and getting shown this, they drank too much mead. They stayed up too late. They slept in and didn't know that the Christians were right coming along there. And they ended up burning some of the village, killing some of the people, forcing them to, my way or the highway. Essentially what you said, Melody, shutting down the feminine, and focusing on the masculine, God, again, the wounded patriarchy, I might call it. And so they woke up the next morning hungover and realizing, oh my God, we screwed up. So there was shame and there was guilt that got stuck into their DNA that was then passed on down to me. So alcohol, shutting down the feminine, the sacral, the shame, the sacral, and connecting with, I'm just going to drink because, there's no other choice. This is alcoholism runs in the family, believing that lie and shutting down your truth, whatever your spiritual truth is. That's what I believe, kills a lot of people, is that religion wound, that then you become addicted to fear and shame and guilt and repeating history. And now the divine feminine's coming back and saying, no, you can believe whatever you want to believe. Love and compassion is the new religion, right? Loving one another, accepting one another, and allowing whoever to be whatever they want to be. So that where a lot of wars are religious wars, right? And holy wars. And, that's where it's got to stop. It's got to change. And that's what I believe the healed feminine is coming forth to help bring forth and help heal a lot of that. And if we all respect everyone's beliefs and honor what people are doing and live in harmony, that's going to change the world on a global level. So that's, I hope that all made sense, because it's a lot.
Yes. Yes, you made sense. Absolutely. And it reminds me of one of our chapters in volume 2, Marla Durden. She writes about remembering who you are and epigenetics, right? So like you're talking about, the things that happened in the generations past, right? Accumulated in your system, in our bones, in our bodies, right? And what I'm interested in, all of it, thank you for sharing, right? What I'm interested in for that is also the compound healing, right? So we know all these things can add on over generations. And now as we're being intentional about it, what I look forward to is the healing of all of it. Melody, you look like you had a lot to say to what she shared.
Oh, I appreciate so much just being able to have the experience that you had of feeling like the ancestors are communicating with you. Here's the origin point. Here's where it started in this lineage. And I've actually had similar experiences. And I'm wondering, Magdalena, would you be willing to talk to us just a little bit about plant medicine, how often you access it, how it has maybe helped you in your own spiritual wellness?
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, gosh. And I'm definitely going to get emotional at some point here. It's coming through me right now. So just give me a moment. I came to plant medicine because I don't think I would be alive today if I didn't connect with the sacred plants. They were calling me to commune with my ancestors, to remember who I truly am. And so through that process, after my first few ceremonies, and it was the third ceremony where the suicide victims, my friends who killed themselves, my brother and all of those other people, said, you've got to keep doing the work. You've got to heal so you can be our spokesperson, so you can help other people prevent suicide and overcome addiction and get to the root causes, as opposed to just saying no. And again, I respect all paths. It's all perfect. But for me, I did sit with medicine over 2 years, over 50 times, in deep dive macro doses with ayahuasca, silvahuasca, and psilocybin. I don't recommend that path for anyone. It was my path of rediscovering myself, and I knew within the first few sessions that it was my calling to become a plant medicine woman. It was my past life. Mary Magdalene came many times underneath, the medicine and told me, you're not going to get killed this time for being a woman and for being a healer. And I just kept using the medicine, co-creating, sitting with it. I don't like that word using, but building a consciousness and a relationship so that I could then serve the medicine. My husband and I do serve plant medicine now as a full-time career. And I did microdose for 18 months straight to kind of help, with meditation, because I needed to develop a practice, and the medicine, came to me. I microdosed with ayahuasca, psilocybin, combination thereof throughout that timeline, and it helped me just heal and release. And now I serve it. I don't sit with it much at all unless there's a specific ancestral clearing that I feel like I really need to, but I've developed such a expanded consciousness now that I use breath work and other modalities to help me expand my consciousness. And I'm just in such a healed state. I used it mostly for healing and then for training. So then I knew how to serve and what a bad trip looks like, what overdoing it looks like, because I did that too. And so I really was able to connect with my ancestors, get to root causes of so many of those masculine and feminine wounds, and to cry oceans of tears because I was pretty numb. I didn't even cry when my brother died or my mom died in 2020. So it was a way to come back to that love and compassion and balance out the hemispheres of the brain, the heart, and heal my mind, body, and spirit.
Yes, thank you for sharing.
Hey, y'all, this is a great place to take a break, take a deep breath, and hear from our awesome sponsors that make Women Connected in Wisdom podcast possible. Shannon, we are so grateful that Shayla Glow is the sponsor of the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. And I wanted to take this moment to ask you, when you think about the people who use Shayla Glow, who are we talking about?
That's a good question. I think about 3 groups, really. One, the group that's removing hair, right? So whether you're using laser hair removal, waxing, shaving, you got to make sure that you're putting back what you're taking out. The second group, I think about those with dry skin and the problems that might cause, right? The scars, itching, burning, whatever the situation is, you definitely need all 3 steps, right? The exfoliation, making sure you're taking the dead skin cells off, the oil, putting in the moisture, and then the shea butter with the aloe, sealing it, helping you heal. Those things help both groups, right? And third, for the third group is those with chronic illness. The story is personally from cancer and different diseases that our population is dealing with on a daily basis throughout families as individuals. So I'm thinking about my mom and my grandmother and those around me with the same generational ties, right? And what positive, healthy habits we can start to make sure that we're maintaining our wellness, especially because the skin is like the cape, the exterior, the shield for your immune system. So with COVID, we have to be intentional about covering ourselves. And those are the groups I think about.
I love it. And you know what else I love about your product? It's all natural, handmade, and it smells great, y'all. So
yes,
yay.
Tested. Yes, esthetician tested and approved. Yes. What about you? When you think about your company, what groups of people do you think about?
Well, I work with individual coaching clients. I work in community classes and with corporate teams. And with all of them, I use a strength-based, embodied approach to help folks connect with themselves and access joy, reduce burnout, and build resilience. Especially during these times, I think we need it. I think we need all the hashtag partnership power we can get.
Yes.
And I'm curious if you can help our listeners decide, they might feel curious. Maybe they've heard a little bit about plant medicine or nothing. Maybe this is the first time they've heard about it being associated with spiritual wellness and emotional wellness. Can you talk to us about how someone might know if they're ready and if this kind of a healing experience might be right for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we have very, very thorough intakes, and we talk people out of it if it's not a good fit. Because you got to be ready. for unearthing stuff that you've potentially repressed. We've had clients repress some of the most horrific sexual traumas, and the medicine helped to bring that up. I went into, my mom had me when she was in the psych ward, right, in a mental institution. And so I got to go in and relive, being in utero in a psych ward, right? Not for the faint of heart. So if you have deep trauma, deep grief, this may be a great path for you, but you have to have spaciousness. I coach my clients on this. I'm like, you're going to have to take time off. You're going to have to integrate well. You have to make sure you work with someone who does integration and prep work. And I'm sorry to say, and I'm going to be an advocate, and I'm going to gain a few enemies and continue to do so. 90% of the plant medicine groups out there don't offer up the proper prep or integration. So just really interrogate whoever you work with, make sure they have prep work and integration, and coach you even on things like nutrition and meditation and daily practices. We don't want you to become addicted and dependent on the medicine, because that's a thing. I almost went there because of my, borderline alcoholism situation. So I learned that. That was a good lesson. So it's not a magic pill, even though it's a magic mushroom. It's not a quick fix. It's a path, and it's a very brave and courageous path. So you got to be ready and probably, budget, a good several $1,000s and a 6 to 12 months to really do it well. This is not signing up for a gym membership. This is not even maybe signing up for like a shamanic practitioner program or a Reiki program or anything where you can get deep healing, because you're going to bring stuff up that may be very unsettling. I've seen people go bipolar. I've seen people have suicidal ideation after, because they're not getting the proper support to balance their central nervous system and make changes in their life and integrate well. So you just got to be mindful and be aware. Safety first, do no harm, and be really committed. It's not a passing fancy or putting a toe in the water kind of a thing.
I really appreciate those cautions so deeply. I experienced a lot of the kind of healing you've described with plant medicine. I went through several years of Kundalini yoga teacher certification, a lot of pranayama, and I experienced a lot of that sort of remembering, reactivating numb areas of the body, having even these sort of downloads or vision experiences with pranayama, with breath work. So I've also worked with clients who had some medicine journeys that were not well supported and ran into those kinds of problems. So thank you for just sharing cautions, what people need to ask for and look for. And do you have anything to offer if someone is considering plant medicine or therapy, or plant medicine and therapy? Can you talk about that relationship?
It's a good question, because again, there's no one arbitrary path with plant medicine, and same with therapy. Therapists are a dime a dozen. Plant medicine people, unfortunately, there's a lot of them all over. I think it's good to work with both. I think it's really important to definitely work with a therapist who's pro plant medicine if they're going to do both. Because I had to stop working with a therapist because she was anti-plant medicine, and I knew in my heart that I wanted to go this path. So those are a couple things to consider. For me, again, this is a bias. I would also work with a therapist who understands shadow work, and has a good lot of testimonials on both sides of the coin, whether it's plant medicine or therapy. Make sure you have a lot of testimonials, and referral is obviously the best way to go. But I think they can work beautifully together as well, as long as you can handle both. A lot of times, if you find the right plant medicine person who does integration work, you may not be able to handle a therapist on top of that, because like we do 8-week to 12-week plant medicine programs. It's not, the ceremony is like 10%. The rest is the work that we provide, that support. We do Kundalini yoga and in our retreats and breath work and sound healing and meditation. We're trying to teach people how to not become dependent upon the medicine. Like I would hope sorry, but if you've been working with your therapist for 11 years, you might want to do something else. Just throwing that out there. No judgment, just a thought. You shouldn't have to be dependent on either thing. You want to have a goal and begin with the end in mind and an outcome, and graduate and see the evolution of yourself either way.
And the other thing you mentioned in some of those additional things you offer, those are tools that someone can use in their for the rest of their life, in their emotional and mental and spiritual wellness journey.
Yeah. And since it's her birthday today, Mary Magdalene, again, these are wisdom reports from my Magdalene lineage. They said that she taught Jesus Kundalini yoga and breathwork and brought that in to the tool belt of Jesus, the Christ himself. You can't get any hello, these are tools that are still working, today that you can find anywhere, just go and seek and ye shall find. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And we have some comments. This is great. Christine says, so many paths to healing. Grateful to have choices. Yes. And I like what you said. I remember learning in, I think it was I don't remember the name of the class, but the class when you talk about the medicine in psychology, right? I want to say Psych Farm, something like that. And they were talking about how long the body has before it builds a shelf life. Well, your body has a shelf life for medicines, right? Usually about 7 years. So if you're on something past a certain amount of time,
Yes.
is that working, or are you the one that's controlling it? So I like what you said about having a goal, being specific, and the due diligence even before that.
Yeah.
The thing I will say that the sacred plants can do, again, not everybody gets the memo. It'll slap you around. I actually knew when I hit my limit with mushrooms. The medicine said, you're done. So if you're in tune, there's not a one size fits all. I've worked with some clients for 6 months and some for a year. That's the other thing to think about is the plants have been here for millions or billions of years. They have so much innate wisdom and intelligence. If you're using it in a sacred way, then you'll never use it for an escape, and you'll know when you've graduated or when you just are on your own and okay. And that's a beautiful thing, using all the other tools that we talked about to take you to that next level.
Yes. Yes. So ladies, each week we talk about a wisdom in action, something that I'm trying to pull up the banner for us. Here we go. Something that you're doing for yourself to be intentional about that dimension of wellness. So I'll start with you, Magdalena Grace. What are you doing intentionally this week for your spiritual wellness?
Gosh, I'm keeping it simple. I have a few things, but for me, I'm working deeper on cleansing and purging with the combo frog medicine. That's my one thing that it's that time of the month where I'm ready to release and call in more light with that.
Beautiful. Keeping it simple. I love it. So if you had to do a hashtag and I try to make it like an action step, what would it be?
Oh,
Like
hashtag.
going deeper?
Hashtag leapfrog.
Okay.
Yeah.
Since it's leap year, right? We have 29 days in February, and I'm cleansing and preparing for the month of February.
What you do there. I like it. Melody, what about you?
So this coming weekend is the ancient Celtic timing cross-border day that we talked about of Imbolc.
Yes.
And also the Chinese and all over Asia, they honor this as sort of the beginning of of their calendar. And I find this to be the best time of year to activate your intentions for the year. So my hashtag is activate intentions.
I love it. Activate intentions. And what I like about it, we've been talking about goals, what we're doing this year for the past few weeks since the Connected and Vision party. And I finally feel like I'm getting my bearings in the year, almost done putting everything in the planner. And so it's like, okay, I'm right on time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that timing between winter solstice and Imbolc, this cross-quarter festival, is really meant for visioning.
Mm-hmm.
And so that vision board party that I attended that we had here, like, was so much fun because I got to look at every single dimension of wellness and kind of envision. And then from that, I write my intentions. And so this weekend, my husband and I will finish up our list of intentions and light a candle and do our prayers and activate those. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for that. And mine, I love what you said about the vision. So keep time for visioning, and keeping that time every day. I've changed around the way that I do my non-negotiables, writing more at length at night so that everything that happened that day, I'm processing it before I go to sleep, right? Instead of trying to hold it onto it until the morning, and making sure that I keep that time to study and be intentional about my spiritual wellness in the morning is super important as I go into different conversations in different rooms. So mine is hashtag keep time for visioning.
Oh, I love it.
Thank you. Magdalena Grace, you look like you had something that came up for you. Were you going to share something?
No, this is totally random because, my face has a tendency to look like I'm just excited about the diversity that's on this screen here right now with us, honoring our ancestors are smiling down right now. The divine feminine is smiling down, and I think it's just beautiful. So
thank you so much. And Melody, at any moment, if you have to jump, please feel free. I know that we're looking at time, but Magdalena, I wanted to ask you maybe one or two more questions. You're going to jump. Thank you so much for joining us.
Gotta go. Bye.
Enjoy your night. So you help people with divine feminine, right? I want to talk about divine feminine and then the intentionality around making sure that you don't go too far with plant medicine and how you help your clients with that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So did you have a specific question? I'll defer back to you. Which one
you can go? You can go whichever one you want to go to first. And I would like to hit on both.
Yeah. So I'll do the second one first because it's the lowest hanging fruit. And things that I've seen in this space, to be candid, I came to plant medicine because of my own addiction challenges. And I know a lot of people have, and there's anything, you can be addicted to social media. You can be addicted to people pleasing. You could be addicted to saying yes to everything. You could be addicted to so many different things.
Eating pillows.
Yeah, right. So it's really about the right relationship. We were talking about that, the right intention, the right relationship, the right medicine for you, the right mentor. I personally would not recommend going into this without interviewing and interrogating your mentors of who you're working with and then hearing their story. I didn't do that. So I did have a fair amount of injurious experiences, some quote unquote bad trips, people that did not provide integration in a structured way, systematic way. And so I was kind of lost actually for about a year in that time and recognizing oh my gosh, I've been addicted to the medicine, to the escape component of it. And I was addicted to the healing component. People are addicted to healing. Like, do you have to go to the chiropractor every week? Do you have to go to the acupuncturist every month? We are healers. We have the ability to heal ourselves. You have to take 500 supplements a day, right? It's this idea that I still have to look outside myself for the answers. So it can become that high, the 60s and free love. And, unfortunately, some of the forefathers of plant medicine, even Timothy Leary and those guys, they helped, but there was also elements where they went a little bit too far and made plant medicine also look like a way to escape. And there's so much misinformation out there, much misinformation out there about people also thinking it's a quick fix and a magic pill, so you should get results right away. That's why I gave you kind of like a timeline and maybe even a budget if you're doing
beautiful. Thank
properly,
you.
right?
Yes.
So just know that if you're becoming dependent upon it, just see what your relationship with is, and are you integrating and implementing and making changes in your life. Those are just the things to be aware of. And ultimately, if I were to give even like a ballpark, like if you were looking to deeply heal grief and not become a plant medicine woman like me, so that was also part of it, you could probably do like a couple of journeys a year with plant medicine with a holistic program around it, to also ensure that maybe you're not seeing it as just another pharmaceutical. People are addicted to pharmaceuticals, right? And never getting off of them. So it's just about that right relationship and tuning in and begin with the end in mind. What are my ultimate goals, and having the right mentorship, which is why, full disclosure, my husband and I came out of the spiritual broom closet faster than we originally intended, because we've been there. We've seen how, many people are getting addicted to the medicine or just escaping and not making lasting changes in their life. So that's what you want to see. Within 6 to 12 months, you should see radical shifts in your life if done safely and done professionally.
Beautiful.
And
I want to
microdosing too. I just wanted to throw that out there. Same thing with microdosing. You don't expect an instant change because it's micro. Plan for like a 6-month commitment. That's what I do tell my clients. Try it for 30 days, see if it's even for you, because you're also going to need to make lifestyle changes. So my website is microdosingforhealth.com. You got to make other changes in your life. Don't just rely on this capsule or whatever, however you're consuming the microdose, in order to have those changes too. So
right.
I'm complete with that.
I love it. And for the thoroughness of it, right? And when you say integration, what comes up for me is, okay, so you took this trip, right? You had this experience. What do you do with that? Instead of just going home without support, and now you're trying to go back into whatever environment and how that looks, right? Is that what you're referring to? How to process what happened and then continue forward?
Yeah, we integrate actually means, if you Google it, to make whole and complete of your experience. No different actually than if you go to an acupuncture treatment, or because I know how the power of Kundalini yoga, like, don't just go home and like go to bed, like journal, what did you gain from that amazing expanded consciousness experience, and how do you want to shift in your life, and make some changes, whether it's food and nutrition, whether it's getting a meditation practice, whether it's improving your sleep hygiene, whether it's writing that forgiveness letter to your dad, or maybe, hiring a therapist. Whatever the call to action is, there's got to be something that brings you more into remembering who you truly are, and bringing you back into a right relationship with yourself and your relationship with everything else outside of you. And having bite-sized goals to improve. That's why I said 6 to 12 months is a really valid amount of time to go into this space and to have realistic goals and integrate, make whole and complete, and make those shifts in your life. Like I shed 40 pounds, and it wasn't just because I gave up alcohol, and I actually didn't give up alcohol. I healed my relationship with it, understood the root cause for the craving, the allure of it, the addiction of it. And that still, took a year and a half to do. Right. So having those expectations, but to see tangible changes in your life, like weight loss or better relationships, better marriage, whatever.
Yes. Yes, all of it. So the last question before we wrap, and usually we don't have questions after wisdom in action, but I want to make sure that we get all of this for everybody. So again, we're talking about awakening and healing the feminine within. So all of this, you come out on the other side. When you think about the divine feminine and where we are, can you tell our listeners one more time what you see us moving into, and how we can make sure that we are balanced walking forward?
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh. Part of it is trusting your intuition and not just believing what everybody says around you, and not becoming a sheeple, like coming in alignment with yourself in your heart. Bringing back your own beautiful creativity. A lot of times, I know for me, and I see this with all of my clients, they shut down their desire to do art, to sing, to dance, to play, all of those things we did as little girls, little boys, and have that magic come outside that is within us, instead of the masculine is more of the logic, the doing, the training, the reading, the rules, the organization, which it has its place, and we need both, right? Yes. But yes, we've been so out of balance. We're trying to come back into balance with that. And the feminine is about also allowing yourself the space to cry. Full disclosure, yesterday, if we would have had this call, I would have shown up very differently. I took the day off yesterday because I was having a lot of anger. A lot of my wounded little girl was coming out and she was angry. And I just allowed her the space to do that, which is a feminine thing, the mothering of myself.
Yes.
And I bawled like, snot and all of this stuff. I screamed, I beat my drum, all of that kind of stuff.
Mm.
And the wounded masculine would have judged me. Oh, you're not working. You're not making money. You're not checking off your to-do list. That's not allowed. Right. So the feminine is all about allowing yourself the space to heal, to feel, to shout, to scream, to dance, to whatever. So that today, and even actually at 5:00 last night, I was like, whew, I got a bunch of ideas and a bunch of energy. I got my to-do list back out, and guess what? I still got a whole bunch of it done at 5 to 5:30 instead of, 8-hour day. I'm like thinking, I might need to do this more often. Thank you, Mary Magdalene. Thank you, Divine Mother. Just allowing yourself to have that space and to not always be in motion, which is definitely more of that masculine.
More of that. And so I tend to do that I tend to do this. Say I have one more question and it's 4.5 more questions, right? So you talking about the time, remind me about you being a 12-week year trainer. Can you tell us about that? And let our listeners know where to find you, because clearly there's more of a conversation we can continue to have.
Sure. Yeah, I've lived so many lives. So one of the lives, it's kind of funny. So I was in health and fitness for 17 years. And so as an Ironman triathlete and a marathon runner, most of my training plans were 12 to 16 weeks long. And so as I got into sales coaching, my next life and career, that again was very masculine. I got the 12-week year certification, which is the book. Check it out. New York Times bestselling. Brian Moran, one of my mentors, who actually, he did try to recruit me to come work for him. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to go play with mushrooms, but thanks for the compliment.
Yes.
But getting more done in 12 weeks than the average person does in 12 years, at the time of this recording, we just passed the date. Today, 80% of New Year's resolutions are in the crapper. Everyone's on to, oh, well, it's just going to be another whatever year, right? And so the visioning we talked about earlier, you have a vision for your 12 weeks. One day, you have time blocks and you do all of these things and you're focused, just like an Ironman triathlete. Every training run had an intention and a purpose and a desired outcome. So you're not wasting a lot of time, which, social media scrolling and checking text messages and emails, all of these time wasters. So inside of the 12-week year, because of my marathon training background, I use that now in my containers for plant medicine. I really, if someone wants to do like one ceremony, they can do that with me and my husband. If they want to do one just retreat and come for 3 days and just get held and loved and nurtured on and just stay here in nature, at our retreat center, all of that, they can. But then we're going to say, okay, let's do a 12-week year together. I actually don't call it that anymore, but let's do a 12 weeks of integration of, what's next. How can we make, whole complete of your experience and get better lasting change? And instead of just like this amazing experience. So that's how I leverage the power of my background with the 12-week year and as an athlete. It's all based on science. Now we're just bringing in the spirituality with the medicine and helping remember that the medicine is inside of you. We just got to help bring it out. So the best way to find me is YouTube. Healthy and Wealthy and Wise is the name of my podcast, or look for Misty Magdalena Grace on YouTube or LinkedIn, Instagram, all of the usual channels. And then my main website is Microdosing for Health. That site, you got it. That's my primary one. I have a link tree and other things that you can cyber stalk me and you'll probably find it somewhere.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. I love your voice. I could just listen to your voice for your voice could probably be a plant medicine, meditation or something, and it would do very well. So I'm just putting that out there for you.
Thank you. I receive it. I receive it. And I love doing stuff like this, having conversations. A lot of conversations we've had, I've kind of dabbled in the different fields, and this I have not. So I said, I'm super excited to learn more from somebody who's doing it safely. And again, thank you so much for sharing. We'll stay in contact. Guys, we have Magdalena Grace's information in the show notes. So if you would like to get connected again to somebody who's going to help you do it and integrate in a healthy way, take the steps that are appropriate to make sure that you're safe and really get to the root. I wonder, you said bullying, you said a lot of stuff that a lot of people are dealing with. So I look forward to helping a lot of people with this episode.
Thank you. Can I share one more thing?
Yes.
Now I'm going to mirror back to you one more thing.
Yes.
So part of our mission this year, we call ourselves the Lotus Throne Sanctuary. The lotus flower is about death, rebirth, and renewal. Very Eastern culture, but it's a beautiful flower. And then the throne is reclaiming your sovereignty, sitting on the throne of your personal sovereignty, and reclaiming and remembering who you truly are. And part of our vision this year is to have a nonprofit started and to raise six figures. We want to help have scholarships and donations towards healing people who are suicide survivors, family members who've lost people to suicide and or addiction related deaths, because that was my journey.
Yeah.
And so especially if people who are so stricken with grief and they're not taking care of themselves, or they don't know how to be in this world without their loved one, we can help them in so many ways. So I just want to put that out there in case there's anyone listening who's got a passion for suicide awareness, prevention, and of course, addiction recovery.
Beautiful. And if they're interested, should they go to your website again?
Yes, microdosingforhealth.now.site. It has donations on the right tab, and it talks about the story and the community and the fundraising that we're doing in 2024.
Beautiful. Yes. Okay. So I will add that. And thank you again for joining us. We will stay connected through social media. And is there anything else that you would like to say before we wrap the show?
Oh gosh, just no matter how hard the healing gets, just remember you matter, you have a purpose, you have a light to shine. The world needs to see it. And as you heal yourself, you give others permission to do the same. So keep up the good work. I know it's not easy, but it's so worth it on the other side. The joy, the bliss, the remembrance, the connection is a beautiful thing. So just encouraging whatever path that is for you.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much. Okay, guys, and I appreciate you for being up on stage with me. Usually our guest is not closing out, but we're here and we're done with episode 146. We will see you guys live next week at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In the meantime, don't forget,
Be well,
be wise, and be whole. We'll talk to you soon. Peace.
Thanks for listening. This has been the Women Connected in Wisdom podcast. On air live on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern via Facebook and YouTube. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Be part of the conversation and get connected at womenconnectedinwisdom.com.